Good morning. Please take your seats so we can begin the public hearing. Good morning. This is a public hearing to take public input regarding House Bill 4001, the title of which is Relating to Eligibility and Fraud Requirements for Public Assistance. There are copies of the original bill on the table up front. It's a green copy. I should alert each of you that the committee is expected, when we take the bill up, to consider a committee substitute, which is a blend, I think that's the best way to describe it, of the original bill, a couple of bills that the DHHR has submitted, as well as some additional changes that the staff of the Judiciary Committee has recommended. That bill will be taken, that committee substitute will be taken up this morning after the public hearing. So it will, don't be surprised if it varies in considerable detail from the green version that made its way to the committee. I should stress to you that the purpose of this public hearing is to receive input regarding this bill. It's not to discuss the war in Afghanistan or campaign finance or any other issue. The purpose is to gather input regarding this particular bill. So please restrain yourself to those type of comments. We welcome both your criticism and your suggestions regarding the bill. But if you vary from that, we'll ask you to get back on the subject, and if you refuse, we'll cut off the microphone. And if you continue to refuse, we'll ask the Sergeant-at-Arms to escort you from the podium. Unfortunately, we've had to do that once already this session. Hopefully, we won't have to do that again. Now, if you have written materials which you wish the committee to consider, if you would, please deliver them to the clerk who's seated to my left, and we'll be sure the committee gets those materials. I do want to remind you that the session is streamed live, so please keep that in mind when you're making your comments. We do ask that you refrain from any type of public outburst, whether it's in approval or disapproval. We will the way we'll proceed, we'll call two names. The first name will be the person that's due to speak at the podium. The second person we'd ask, in order to save some time, if you would move to the front so that you're close to the podium. There are seats here, those folding chairs, that certainly could serve that purpose. We're going to, based on the number of people we have on our list, as well as the length of time we have, we'll allow 2 minutes to speak. The red light at the podium will come on 15 seconds before your time is up, so please begin wrapping up your comments when you see the red light come on. If you go beyond those 15 seconds, the Sergeant-at-Arms will basically, or the doorkeeper will tap you on the shoulder and ask that you leave the podium. Please keep in mind that there are many people here that want to speak, and when you go over your time, you're infringing on their time, so please be courteous in that respect. We have more folks signed up in opposition to the legislation than in favor of it, so we'll not be able to rotate back and forth. We'll do the best we can to work in those folks that signed up in favor of the legislation. So there may be questions by members of our committee to any of the speakers. If you're able to stay beyond the committee meeting, please do so. Otherwise, our committee will be meeting within 10 minutes after the conclusion of this hearing. The first two speakers we have are Cynthia Kirkhart and Spencer Moss. Good morning.
Good morning, committee members, chairman. Thank you for having me today. I'm Cynthia Kirkhart. I'm the executive director at Facing Hunger Food Bank in Huntington, West Virginia. We are proud to serve 12 counties in West Virginia and a total of 116,000 food insecure West Virginians. We're in partnership with you in trying to achieve a way that folks can have adequate amounts to eat. Over the past 18 months, the food bank has experienced a 30% increase in demand for food. Additionally, I have seen an increase of 39% of demand for our backpack program. We are up to 3,900 children weekly who depend on us and you to provide them adequate amounts of food to prepare them for an adequate education. We understand the challenges of the state budget, certainly at the federal level, but we also understand that with limited resources at the food bank, and certainly amongst our 231 member agencies that provide food directly to those in need, we are not meeting the need of food required for those who seek it. We ask that there be careful consideration of the maintenance of SNAP benefits. These benefits are not extravagant at all, and certainly only provide about $1.20 per meal per day per person in a family. 89% of the people that the food bank serves are working poor with children, as well as seniors, homeless veterans, and the disabled. I appreciate your careful consideration of all the facts in regard to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kirkhart. Spencer Moss, followed by Chris Garner.
My name is Spencer Moss. I'm the director of the West Virginia Food and Farm Coalition. At the Food and Farm Coalition, our work is to try to make farming and food businesses more viable. And the second part of our mission is that all residents have access to this food. So while my board of directors, my staff, my community partners, such as Cindy, and constituents are trying to find a way to move West Virginia product into mainstream markets, such as grocery stores, we find that this bill works us backwards. And it's for those reasons that we oppose House Bill 4001 and any legislation like it. The truth is that SNAP dollars purchases agricultural product, whether it's fruits and vegetables, value-added products, or meats. It purchases farmer products. This bill removes purchasing power from low-income residents. This includes seniors, people with disabilities, and children. This bill is likely to cause grocery stores in rural areas to close their doors. So while the folks that I work with are working to put West Virginia product into the mainstream market, this bill literally works us backwards, and it's looking to send $17.8 million federal dollars out of our food economy, away from our farmers, away from that goal. And this bill helps no one, but what it will do is it will put an unnecessary burden on churches and charitable food operations that are already stretched thin. It will not help people go back to work because most of the beneficiaries are in fact working. Statistics note that 80% of recipients worked the year before and or the year after that they received benefits. This will simply encourage families not to save money so that they don't cross an asset limit and find themselves in a worse place than when they started. And we always seem to wonder why it's so difficult for people to work themselves out of their circumstances, out of poverty. It's bills like this that won't aid in that. So for those reasons, the West Virginia Food and Farm Coalition opposes House Bill 4001. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. Chris Garner, followed by Gene Simpson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Chris Garner. I represent Catholic Charities West Virginia, and I'm here to give a voice to the concerns of our clients in opposition to House Bill 4001. While not totally opposed to everything in the bill, I do feel obligated to give voice to the concerns of our clients. And to this point, we raise with the additional requirements that are being looked at today, there are certainly unintended consequences, and I ask you to consider that those whose sole means of transportation is a 25-year-old unreliable car, or for those who have no car and no means of public transportation and are dependent upon family and friends to move themselves from place to place. Those family and friends also have their own interests to look after. I ask you to consider those whose spirit and courage have been destroyed by abusive spouses and whose lives have been left in shambles through no fault of their own. Consider that the system, that one benefit encourages employment while another benefit taxes that employment. Consider that those modest savings is an effort to rise from poverty. It should not then be used as a measuring stick to beat them down. I fear that this bill, as written, relies too heavily on false assumptions regarding an entire class of people, yet it solves none of the underlying problems. Very few in this chamber receive food assistance. Most of you have never been hungry, homeless, or destitute. Most of you have never been abandoned, abused, or neglected. And most of you have never been broken, empty, and alone. But outside these chamber doors, and outside these marble halls exist the people whose families have forsaken them, whom society has neglected, and whom our God has called us to serve. Thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Gene Simpson, followed by Sarah Fox.
Good morning. My name is Jean Simpson. I am a retired director of Man a Meal Soup Kitchen in Charleston, West Virginia. Just this bill being on the floor makes me know for a fact that none of you, not one single person, has lived in poverty. You all have got no clue what poverty is. I have a woman that the Social Security Department made me her payee. She gets a certain amount of money per month, okay? It's my responsibility then to pay all her bills and make sure she has a place to live. She gets $219 of SNAP benefits per month. Set aside that, she has no other money for food. I pay all her bills, I pay her rent, I pay her utilities. It leaves her $60 per month. That's less than 90 cents per day. Live on that. Now, if she didn't have that $219 SNAP benefits, what in the world is she going to eat on? Well, she's going to go to the soup kitchens. She's going to go to the food pantries. But she has no transportation. The transportation costs her $40 a month. Out of that $60, 40 of it is transportation. God, I remember the days, on rainy days in the Man a Meal Soup Kitchen, when every single person that walked in that door, and on the average, it was about 180 some people per day for breakfast, walk in sopping wet because they had to walk so many miles to get to the bus. You know, I can go on and on and on, but you all have got no clue what poverty is. So I honestly had a lot other things to say. You know, you don't believe in your DHHR. They had a 9-county pilots program set up. Read what that says. It says no.
Would you please wrap up, Ms. Simpson?
The mental illness in the state of West Virginia and the poverty that is in our state is just going to wither up and die, and that's our citizens that vote for you all. Do your job. Take care of the people that live in our state.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. Sarah Fox, followed by Julie Archer.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Fox. I'm a resident of Charleston, member of constituent of the 36th and 17th District. I grew up as a ward of the state in foster care. I am one of the faces of poverty. I am a SNAP and Medicaid recipient. I claim disability. I work and receive $9.70 per hour wages. After Social Security, SSI, and net pay, there isn't much left for general spending and groceries and to stretch out into the next deposit date. I received about $1,000 net income per month which is difficult to live on. In addition, I seem to feel punished for working. It seems easier just to relapse, be disabled, because I'm reviewed by every agency at least every 6 months. In addition, being productive, I'm not available when they notify me that they schedule at their convenience my review time. And the listed worker at DHHR does not take phone calls. It's difficult to reschedule. It's difficult to contact DHHR. I have little savings. When I have an unexpected expense, such as the need for extermination, to return to work, I don't have $856 to $1,000 to spend. Instead, I consider going into debt. Thank you for listening to the struggles of dealing with the DHHR and how difficult it is for poverty. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Julie Archer, followed by Kathleen Stapleford.
Good morning. My name is Julie Archer, and I'm here today on behalf of the League of Women Voters of West Virginia to oppose House Bill 4001. The League of Women Voters supports programs and policies to prevent and reduce poverty and to promote self-sufficiency for individuals and families, and believes those who are unable to work, whose earnings are inadequate, or for whom jobs are not available have the right to an income and/or services sufficient to meet their basic human needs for food, shelter, and access to health care. We oppose changes in eligibility requirements like the asset testing and work requirements proposed by House Bill 4001, which would further restrict access to food assistance and other essential support services and punish families for saving money for emergencies and for their children's future while they're receiving services. An enhanced eligibility verification system for SNAP and other programs is unnecessary and wasteful, and if not properly administered, could end up denying benefits to thousands of eligible people. Eligibility can and should be established through simple procedures, such as a declaration of need, spot checked in a manner similar to that used in checking the validity of income tax returns. Social service programs should be responsive to the needs of those being served. Work should be encouraged. However, programs that require recipients of assistance to engage in work-related programs must guarantee basic protections and incentives for participants. These include but are not limited to job training, basic education, exemptions for primary caregivers, and supplemental support services such as child care and transportation. These requirements and protections are not included in House Bill 4001 and will just lead us down the same failed road that we saw with the SNAP pilot project. It's hard enough being poor, and we shouldn't be spending millions of dollars to devise ways to deny people services. Please oppose House Bill 4001. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Archer. Kathleen Stapleford, followed by Jeffrey Allen.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Stapleford. I'm a farmer in Clay County, and we're in the center of the state. All the pilot programs were on areas where you can access transportation, public transit, and different other resources that are around, jobs. A lot of other things. You don't have public transit anywhere through the center portion of the state. If you put revenues and asset testing down to one vehicle, that means one car per household with, what is it, $2,200? That means that's the max amount per household. So you have a car breakdown. The heater breaks down. That means they have nothing. Have you ever had to have a heater repair? It costs more than that, doesn't it? So where do they get it? How do they pay childcare? How do they pay for their car? They're not allowed to have a backup car because you've made them sell it. They can't have it. All these things combat each other. So they can't have food if they're allowed to have a car. They can't have a backup car if they want the heater repaired. If they want the heater repaired, then they can't have this. And all this is because they want to get off of these programs. So if they want to get off the programs, then they can't have anything. So it's what? And all of this is for them to work it out. And it's defeating the purpose. And none of it makes sense for $2,250. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Stapleford. Jeffrey Allen, followed by Ted Butner.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Allen. I'm a United Methodist minister and the executive director of the West Virginia Council of Churches, a statewide member body organization of 14 different denominations celebrating 138 years of ministry in 2018. I think the first rhetorical question found in the Bible is Cain's question to God, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Today we would add, "Am I my sister's keeper?" Many of our sisters and brothers are not in good shape. They are struggling with their health, poverty, getting enough to eat, trying to get through school, and living from paycheck to paycheck. Many of our sisters and brothers are children, the elderly, and the disabled. We are responsible for them, both as individuals and as a nation. Our state and federal government was established, after all, to promote the general welfare of the country or the common welfare of the state. Dietrich Bonhoeffer once wrote that the government most closely resembles the reign of God when it protects life. The West Virginia Council of Churches in our 2018 Public Policy Issues Priorities booklet notes that we oppose reductions in key safety net programs such as SNAP and oppose policies that impose burdensome requirements on those who are receiving aid. House Bill 4001 gives us great cause for concern. Particularly disconcerting is the provision in the bill that provides a private third-party vendor the ability and the economic incentive to remove West Virginia families from SNAP, Medicaid, and TANF. One other question. Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you? And the king replies, "So as you did to the least of these, so you did unto me." Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Ted Bettner, followed by Juliet Terry.
Good morning. My name is Ted Bettner. I'm with the Executive Director of the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy. And I would really urge us to take an evidence-based approach instead of a punitive approach to advancing the well-being, especially of low-income people in West Virginia. The work requirements may sound good, especially in a state that has historically low labor force participation rates. Denying food assistance to unemployed and part-time workers will do little to nothing to encourage employment. There's no research or evidence to show that that is exactly a proven way to get people into the workforce. We do have proven ways. There's been a bipartisan bill introduced in this legislature to establish a state earned income tax credit to help low-income people, incentivize them to get into the workforce. That's a proven way that has empirical evidence to show that it works. So if we're interested in that, that's one way. The state has already cut off 5,000 low-income people off of SNAP, and another 7,000 could be cut off from food assistance if this bill passes. And it's very important to understand we're talking about a population that has huge obstacles in front of them. Childless adults participating in SNAP nationally have an average income of $3,400. 85% of this population that we're looking at has a high school degree or less. On top of those challenges, this population faces multiple hurdles to employment, including little access to transportation, especially in a state like West Virginia, criminal records, mental and physical limitations, frequent job dismissals, lack of a driver's license, and homelessness. Instead of cutting these people off from food assistance that are struggling with job opportunities, we should be exploring the less punitive ways to do that. One thing that's very counterproductive that's in this bill is the asset test. 34 states, including West Virginia right now, do not impose one. And for good reason. It's counterproductive to do that. Instead of encouraging people, we should be encouraging people to save money for emergencies or for their child's future while they're temporarily enrolled in SNAP. By removing the asset test, it simplifies the application process by reducing errors and other things. Just to give you, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bettner. Julia Terry, followed by Caitlin Cook.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for letting me speak to you today. My name is Juliette Terry, and I'm wearing two hats today, as it turns out. I represent the Opportunity Solutions Project, which is looking to restore the power of work to Americans, and also the West Virginia Business and Industry Council, which represents 26 different industry trades and more than 400,000 working West Virginians. I know this committee has a heavy workload, probably the heaviest workload of everybody else. But this really is an easy vote. It should be an easy yes because it does two things that I think everybody in this room strives. One, it encourages self-sufficiency and for people to work back towards their independence that perhaps they lost because of unfortunate circumstances. But it also helps government fight against waste, fraud, and abuse to preserve those precious resources for the truly needy, the people who truly need help because they are not able to work. DHHR is already working towards a lot of the goals in this bill because they can. These are existing federal laws. This is not new policy. And if people think that there is not fraud and abuse and waste happening in these programs, I ask you to only look at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Paris Interstate Match Program. West Virginia now participates in this. And it basically checks your public assistance rolls against every other state. In November of 2017, more than 7,000 West Virginia recipients were found to be registered and receiving benefits in West Virginia and at least one other state, and in some cases, multiple states. That needs to stop, and the department is trying to stop it, and this legislation will help them get there. On the work requirement, let's remember it only affects a very small segment of people, those who are not disabled, those who are able-bodied, who have no children, who have no impediments to work. And the department has amazing caseworkers who are there to help these people start that critical pathway towards self-sufficiency. In the 9 counties, remember this number, 6,200 people are keeping their benefits and are working now, or training or volunteering. That's who should be applauded, and that's the goal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Terry. Caitlin Cook, followed by Sally Roberts Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Caitlin Cook. I'm the Communications Director at the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy. I urge you to vote no on House Bill 4001. It hurts our people, our economy, and it's flawed. HB 4001 makes it much harder for thousands of West Virginians to get the help they need. The bill's time limits, asset testing, and work requirements are punitive and ineffective. We know from DHHR's own 9-county pilot program that when the state limits food assistance in an effort to encourage work, that it doesn't work. People are still hungry, people still need jobs, and it forces our local churches and food banks to step up so our neighbors don't go hungry. During the pilot program, the state removed 5,000 plus SNAP cases. That took away more than 13,000 SNAP dollars. And it also led to a 30% increase in meals served at food banks in that pilot program area. Huntington City Mission had to go from serving 3 to 2 meals a day because it could not keep up with the demand. If DHHR expanded the work requirement program, it estimates that it would knock off another 7,000 plus SNAP caseloads. That means West Virginia would lose nearly 8 million federal SNAP dollars. And DHHR's own memo acknowledges that it didn't work trying to get people back to work. DHHR made over 13,000 job referrals. Just 259 people gained employment. And when we look at how the bill allows DHHR to enter into a third-party contract to conduct enhanced verification for Medicaid, SNAP, and TANF that financially incentivizes that company to kick West Virginians off of assistance, we need to ask ourselves who benefits from this bill, because it's not West Virginia and it's not our people. That company is Optum. They're headquartered in Minnesota. Their contract is worth more than $300 million over 10 years. We will spend millions of state dollars to remove millions of federal dollars from our economy, all while hurting our people. I urge you to vote no. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Sally Roberts Wilson, followed by Lada Shepherd.
Hello, my name is Sally Roberts Wilson from Morgantown, West Virginia. I'm here to voice a strong opposition to HB 4001. This bill is quite simply a waste of taxpayer dollars. It's a solution in search of a problem. This bill will be a massive giveaway of state tax dollars, which are now and should continue to be spent in West Virginia to an out-of-state corporation. They take the can-do attitude of anything you can do, I can do better, and turn it on its head. We continue in the extractive model that has so crippled our state. While the logic against supporting this bill is clear and has been outlined by many here today, the moral calling of Christ is also clear. He did not ask whether someone was worthy before teaching, before healing, or before feeding. We are called to follow him and go and do likewise. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Lida Shepherd, followed by Rick Wilson.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Chairman Schott and also thank the members of the Judiciary Committee for being here this morning, as well as all you other beautiful people. My name's Lida Shepherd. I work with the American Friends Service Committee, and this morning I want to read testimony from Trinity Mullins. She couldn't be here this morning. About right now, she is putting her daughter, who's 4, on the bus to school and going to work. But she wanted to deliver this testimony to you all today. House Bill 4001 is outrageously hurtful to the West Virginians who need help the most. Full-time work is hard to find, even for those with degrees. Putting a short limit on unemployed and short-time workers is hurtful. It has been proven food stamps and similar programs are helpful to local economies, as it helps put money into the system because people are making purchases they otherwise couldn't. I'm a mother who works multiple part-time jobs to reach full-time hours. We need to stop the judgment and harsh treatment of those in need and work to help them, as it helps all of us in the end, just as hurting them hurts the whole state too. And I would just like to add that in West Virginia, we have a rich tradition of looking out for one another. We have a rich tradition of feeding our neighbors, and this bill flies in the face of that tradition, and there's no fixing this bill. There's no soft version of this bill, so please oppose it. Thank you, and I'd like to give you testimony from Trinity.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. Please give the clerk the testimony. Rick Wilson, followed by Valerie Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Rick Wilson from Milton, West Virginia, also with the American Friends Service Committee. First of all, I have been very moved by some of the testimony today. Clearly, it came from the heart of a lot of people. I think it's an understatement to say there is no groundswell of opinion to take away benefits from people living on $4 a day in food assistance. There are a lot of religious church people here. I have a little story. Several years ago, I tried to teach myself Greek so I could read the New Testament in the original. I didn't get very far, but I learned 2 words, and they have to do with time. One is chronos, and one is kairos. Chronos is ordinary time. Kairos is critical time. It's a time to make a decision. When the Bible says the time is at hand, the time has come, the word is kairos. This committee and this body is facing a moment of kairos today. Whether it will do the right thing or whether it will pass legislation that hurts poor people, takes millions of dollars out of a fragile economy for both retail and farmers, and overtaxes the many charities here. I hope you will listen to the needs of West Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Valerie Woody, followed by Robert Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is a simple test of morality. Do we see ourselves as our brother's keeper or not? I could speak on my own recognizance, but I'd like to speak for a friend of mine named Sarah Starks. She's a single mother who couldn't be here today because she had work. She says, "I'm a single low-income parent with a child in daycare. It is not by hard work or persistence that I'm able to support my family. It's by luck. By luck and with the aid of public assistance. I have a bachelor's degree, but that doesn't mean I can find work that pays enough to live independently. And like so many West Virginians, I'm one financial emergency away from everything falling apart." According to most recent census data, between 11 and 17% of West Virginia families live below the poverty line. Approximately 25% of families with children under 5 live in poverty, and over half of single mothers with children under 5 in West Virginia live in poverty. The bottom line is a lot of people in West Virginia are just getting by and living month to month. Many others in our state are working and trying, and they aren't getting by, not because they don't work hard enough, but because they are not lucky. Imagine you were a member of the working poor and suddenly found yourself jobless. If this bill were to pass, if you could not find a new position within 3 months, you would not be able to feed your family. Imagine not even being able to build up a savings to protect you from such disaster, because if you have no more than $2,500 in savings, you'll no longer be able to afford food. Please stop targeting and punishing the poor. We do not have a welfare fraud problem in West Virginia. We have a poverty problem. We have a poor families problem. We have a lack of opportunities problem. We have an opiate addiction problem. This bill does not address the real problems in this state. This bill hurts people who are already hurting, spending money attempting to address a non-issue, and puts a large portion of our population at risk. I would wrap up with this. Who is truly deserving was asked. Do we need those who humble themselves enough to ask for assistance to arrive barefoot in sackcloth, prostrating themselves in front of us? Do we need them to take off work? No. This is an issue of morality. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woody. Robert Jackson, followed by Chantel Fields.
I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the chance to speak this morning. I'm Robert Jackson, a retired banker from Milton in Cabell County. For over 30 years as a banker, I always tried to treat people the way I would want to be treated. These days, my wife and I try to serve God through the food bank in Milton, which is able to spend $5,000 per month to purchase food because of contributions given by area churches. In our board meetings, we are facing the reality that our support system is aging and church memberships are declining, even as the need for our services continues to grow, in part due to the cuts in SNAP in our county. Of note, almost half of the people served by our local food bank are the working poor. Monthly, our organization serves over 1,100 people, which about 400 are children who need food. The sad reality today is that so many impoverished children in our state live in fractured homes. A 6th grade girl in Milton just committed suicide, a 6th grader. Both of her parents were dead from drug overdoses, and her grandparents were trying to do the best they could to fill the void. When I volunteered at Culloden Elementary, I worked with 5 2nd grade boys who had all been born to drug-addicted mothers and now reside with other caregivers. I had no idea facing our children these days. We cannot legislate nurturing, but we can support those caregivers who are trying to provide basic necessities for those under their care. I realize that people take advantage of the system, but voting for this bill allows the system to take advantage of people with legitimate needs. Please consider how you would feel if you were a hungry child or a caregiver, and then vote no for House Bill 4001. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Chantel Fields, followed by Sam Hickman.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Chantel Fields. I'm the Executive Director of West Virginians for Affordable Health Care, and I'm here today in opposition of HB 4001. Food and health care are essential to leading a healthy and productive life. Putting barriers in place that make it more difficult for low and middle income West Virginians to receive food assistance or to access health care is just wrong. 23% of our state's workforce is employed in low-wage jobs, and 25% of them are living in poverty. HB 4001 does nothing but make it harder for these people to access public assistance. DHHR's own 9-county program showed that work requirements for food assistance did not work and did not boost employment. If you want people to work, the answer is increased food security and ensuring access to health care. Being healthy and not hungry helps people get work, stay employed, be productive, and take fewer sick days. And SNAP is important to the health of our children and our seniors. Well-fed children are healthier and better able to perform in school, and well-fed seniors are healthier, have lower health care costs, are less likely to be in nursing homes, and have fewer hospital admissions, things that I think you all believe are good for the entire state. For these reasons, we ask that you oppose HB 4001. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. Sam Hickman, followed by Sally Roberts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Sam Hickman. I'm the Executive Director of the West Virginia chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. I grew up downriver in Dunbar, and I reside in Charleston now. The National Association of Social Workers West Virginia chapter opposes House Bill 4001. West Virginia's economic condition remains terribly fragile. Federal regulations allow states to exempt economically distressed areas from the harsh eligibility determinations being considered in this legislation. And West Virginia must continue and expand its request for waivers due to its economic conditions. The majority of beneficiaries of SNAP are children. To live in poverty is to live in toxic stress. To live in poverty is to live in toxic stress. And toxic stress has lifelong negative health implications. Programs like SNAP help alleviate toxic stress, and they give people hope. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, give our people hope. Reject House Bill 4001. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hickman. Eli Baumwell, followed by John Canfield.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Eli Baumwell. I'm the Policy Director for the American Civil Liberties Union of West Virginia. I'm here to speak in opposition to House Bill 4001. Now, the ACLU has long stood for the rights and protections for the disabled and differently abled people. So the concerns I'm here to raise today are echoed by the ACLU. However, I'm actually here to speak as a private citizen who spent 5 years representing people in Social Security disability cases. Time constraints don't allow me to share all the personal tragedies, all the heartbreaking situations I saw, and all the egregious decisions that came out of disability hearings. Suffice to say, the determinations of who is and who is not able to work are subjective and difficult to make. I want to share briefly 4 other takeaways that I had working with these populations. People succeed when they have hope. I saw more people return to work who are granted benefits, who are given stability, who are given hope, than I did who were denied benefits. Despair is not a motivator. People who subjectively felt that they couldn't work, regardless of the objective situation that they were in, did not return to work when they were denied. They fell deeper into despair and they fell deeper into destitution. SNAP was a lifesaver. People who were denied benefits or who were waiting for benefits often had nothing other than SNAP to rely on. Cutting them off from that meager bit of assistance would have been devastating for those individuals. And medical records cannot and do not always tell the whole story of why people are barred from getting to work. Now, I want to invite everyone here to come and speak to me more about some of the situations I saw in this practice. Again, I don't have time to share all of them in this format. And I urge this body to consider a more compassionate approach to getting people back to the workplace. I urge you to give people stability and hope and guidance rather than threats. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baumwell. John Canfield, followed by Elizabeth Brunello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm John Canfield with the West Virginia Chamber of Commerce. The West Virginia Chamber has over 5,000 member businesses located in all 55 counties of the state, and our members employ over 1/2 of West Virginia's workforce. The Chamber supports House Bill 4001 from the dual perspective of workforce development and the drug crisis in West Virginia. 4001 would require the DHHR to enforce existing federal law, which would require able-bodied adults without dependents to either work, train, or volunteer at least 20 hours a week in order to maintain SNAP benefits. This federal requirement was instituted over 20 years ago during the Clinton administration. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, West Virginia is the only state in the nation with less than half of our adults employed in the workforce. It's not unreasonable to expect that those who are able-bodied adults without dependents, not children, not the disabled, not the elderly, also perform some level of work or service or job training in return for those benefits. West Virginia also leads the nation in the rate of drug overdoses. How is work related to the drug crisis? The opioid epidemic is robbing our state of workers. According to the 2015 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, those who are unemployed are nearly twice as likely to abuse prescription drugs as those who are employed. For people struggling with addiction, work and job training can be a key to recovery. The work, community service, and job training requirements will be an important step to promote self-sufficiency and fight the scourge of drug addiction in West Virginia. For these reasons, the Chamber supports 4001. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Canfield. Elizabeth Brunello, followed by Seth DeStefano.
Hello, good morning. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate it. My name is Elizabeth Brunello. I'm the director of the Appalachian Center for Equality, which is a student leadership and advocacy program in Boone, Logan, and Mingo counties working with high school age children. So this morning I'm representing, in addition to myself, the students and families in my program from these counties. And I'm here to speak against HB 4001. I believe, as do everyone I've talked to from these counties that I work with in these high schools with my program, is a bill that would further stigmatize recipients of safety net programs and put in place more unnecessary bureaucratic barriers between vulnerable individuals and the public assistance that they need. Poverty alone creates enough barriers to people's quality of life, their mental health and well-being, and to their ability to be an active, healthy member of their community, which is what pretty much everybody wants. HB 4001 not only creates more hoops for people to jump through in a system that is already really difficult to navigate for people that are living in poverty and is burdensome, it also disincentivizes savings, and with that, the ability for someone to chart their own path out of poverty, which is what so many folks are trying to do and struggling to do. I can't say enough how damaging this bill would be for everyone, and no less those people living in the southern counties that I work in. These are extremely fragile economies, as we should all know, and there are a lot fewer opportunities for stable employment. Based on 2016 to 2017 data, federal investment in West Virginia through SNAP funding was almost $500,000. And in Boone, Logan, and Mingo County, where I work, the annual federal SNAP investment ranged from almost $10 million to well above $15 million. That's money circulating in these depressed counties. And if you've been down there, you know that we can't afford to lose even a little bit of that. So I urge you to vote against HB 001. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Brunella. Seth DeStefano, followed by Alexandra Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee, for being here. Has the program been a success in the 9 pilot counties? Our best data does not indicate that the program has had a significant impact on employment figures for the ABOD population in the 9 issuance-limited counties. This is the Justice Administration's own report on what happened when we took food away from 5,400 people in the 9 counties with the lowest unemployment in West Virginia, right? Right here. Don't worry, we've made copies and we'll make sure everybody gets one. This does not work, ladies and gentlemen. We gave it a shot, right? We had a pilot program. The reason you have a pilot program is to see if something is effective, if it works. The data very clearly says no, it did not. Right? Punishing people who can't find more than 20 hours of work per week by taking their food away is economically unsensible, unwise, and cruel when it comes to the humanity of it. Asset testing, another pillar of this bill, is very counterproductive for what we want to accomplish for our people in West Virginia. We do not need to disincentivize 81,000 working West Virginians who rely on SNAP, right? That's how many workers. 2/3 of the households who rely on SNAP have somebody working in that household. We do not need to disincentivize them from setting money aside, and that's what asset limits do. It takes a long time to save up money for a down payment on a car. People should not have to choose between whether or not they can put that money aside and $3.87 a day in federal food assistance. I strongly urge the committee to reject 4001, side on your better nature, and do not take food away from people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeStefano. Alexandra Gallo.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and the committee, for the opportunity to speak this morning. My name's Alexandra Gallo. I work with an organization called West Virginia Citizen Action, and I have the opportunity to speak with many people that are on the SNAP program or have been on the SNAP program, and I am one paycheck away from having to be on the SNAP program. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. We know that when we eliminate food assistance programs, the need, those empty stomachs, do not go away. The burden is shifted to the already underserved churches, food pantries, nonprofits, and other institutions with limited resources. We cannot restrict food access to people. We cannot punish families who are saving money for emergencies or their children's future. Requiring an asset limit for SNAP would dramatically hurt our most vulnerable populations. Those seeking to cut SNAP misrepresent the basic reality of the program. The most important starting principle for Catholic social teaching is the need to engage the truth. Pope Leo XIII stated that nothing is as important as facing the world as it truly is. When it comes to SNAP, the data and facts are clear. If you care about people and a sound economic policy, SNAP is the program for you. SNAP is a supplement on its own. It's never enough to provide the basic nutritional needs of families or seniors living in poverty. In times of economic growth and increasing wages, the number of families receiving food assistance and those eligible for it naturally shrinks. But we're in an economic crisis here in West Virginia, and we need to be putting our resources to the people. As a program, SNAP is means tested and economically effective. It has what economics call a multiplier effect. According to the USDA, when households spend their SNAP benefits, the direct effects are increased
Ms. Gallo,
economic
please wrap up
activity.
your comments. Please wrap up.
Thank you so much. I have one more statement to make. When Jesus is asked by what standard God will judge us, whether or not we feed the hungry is there in black and white. A budget is a moral document, a statement of collective priorities, and it is a statement of who we want to be as a state. It turns out that feeding hungry people is good economic policy.
Thank you, Ms. Gallo. That concludes the presentations. We thank each of you for your input. To the members of the committee, we will convene in 10 minutes. To the audience, it is expected that the committee will be taking up a committee substitute, which does differ in several significant respects from the bill as it was filed. Thank you. We are adjourned. There's some people that